Hi there, and welcome to the Cory Doctorow podcast again. The weekend was quite good. We had a major victory in the Liberal Democratic Party. That's the party that I'm a member of here, and that I was very surprised last week to discover that our front bench lords had supported a web censorship proposal in the UK Digital Economy Bill. Anyway, this spurred a real revolt among the rank-and-file members as well as the parliamentary candidates, and this weekend at the Liberal Democratic Conference, we put forward a motion that the Liberal Democrats were committed from now on to an open and free internet, and opposed under all circumstances to web censorship, to fight copyright infringement, or disconnection to fight infringement. So it was a really good motion, and it carried unanimously, which I was very excited about. And thanks to everyone who helped with that. We put in a little campaign on Twitter on Saturday night to get people to join the Facebook group for it, just to impress on the membership of the Lib Dems how important this issue was around the world. And it really seemed to have worked. I mean, a unanimous, except for one person, passage at the conference, and the Lib Dems make their policy through conference. So I guess that means that it's the policy of the Lib Dems. It's great. The other, of course, amazing thing that happened this weekend is my wife came home. Alice is back from the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. My daughter is very glad to have her back, as am I. And she was quite jet-lagged last night, so she got up in the middle of the night and discovered that she'd won 2 South by Southwest awards. 2 of the games that she commissioned last year for Channel 4 won awards at South by Southwest. One game, Smokescreen, won Best Game Overall, and the other game, 1066, won Best Educational Game. So congratulations to Alice. That's great. I have such a clever wife. On the writing front, I'm nearly finished the short story I'm writing for Shareable. It's called The Jammy Dodgers and the Adventure of the Leicester Square Screening. This is kind of prequel to the novel Pirate Cinema, which is what I'm going to write when I'm finished writing this short story and the next short story, and then completely done with all short story writing, which will be great, at least until I finish the next novel, Pirate Cinema. So that second story after I write Jammy Dodgers will be my Harrison Burdick story, which you've heard me talk about on this podcast before, and I'll let you know how that goes as well. I think I might podcast it too. I'm not sure what my deal will be with the publisher. It's a big week for public speaking for me. I'm off to Bloomsbury Publishing this afternoon. Those are the Harry Potter people, to give them a talk on the future of publishing and one of their brown bag lunch publishing event gigs. And funnily enough, they're not in Bloomsbury. They're in Soho. But it's always nice to get down to Soho. And then tomorrow night, that's Tuesday, I'm going to be at English Pen's event at the Free Word Center in Farringdon Road. I'm not sure if it costs anything to go, but it's at 6:30 p.m. Oh no, maybe it's free. I think it's free. And the event is called Judging a Book by Its Cover. And again, it's one of these Future of the Book things. I really like English Pen. They're a really good free speech organization. I was glad to be asked. And then I'm off to the Leipzig Book Fair on Thursday, and I'll be there on Thursday and Friday. So maybe I'll run into some of you there. My German publisher, Rowohlt, is bringing me out, and I'm going to be there promoting the German edition of Little Brother. And then finally, what other news do I have? Oh, I've been really enjoying a new book, which, you can't read. It's Kathy Koja's forthcoming book, Under the Poppy, which she sent me a manuscript for, and which I'm almost finished with, and it is just stupendous. If you're a fan of Kathy Koja's like I am, and you like her young adult fiction, but really miss the stuff that she used to write for grown-ups, Under the Poppy will make you a very happy person. It is great stuff. Just outstanding, stellar stuff. Well, I'm going to finish Clockwork Fagin for you today, and then, as I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the weeks to come. I'm off to Seattle for NorwestCon on the 1st of April, and then I'm going to be having a bit of a holiday in the States with my family. My parents are coming down. We're bringing along the baby, and then I'm going to Texas, to San Antonio for a library conference before heading home. So I'm not sure if I'm going to podcast while I'm on the road. It's probably going to be pretty busy, so I might take a couple of weeks hiatus, and then I think I'll probably read you Shannon's Law, which is this short story I just wrote for the Borderlands anthology. And then we'll see where we go. So anyway, that's the deal. And now I will finish for you Clockwork Fagin, which is the short story I wrote for Kelly Link and Gavin Grant's young adult steampunk anthology. "Constable, come quick, he's going to kill himself." I practiced the line for the 50th time, willing my eyes to go wider, my voice to carry more alarm. Behind me, Monty scowled at my reflection in the mirror in Grinder's personal toilet, where I'd been holed up for hours. Verily, the stage lost a great player when that machine mangled you, Sean. You are perfect. Now get moving before I tear your remaining off and beat you with it. Go! Phase 1 of the plan was easy enough. We'd smuggle our grinder up onto the latticework of steel and scaffold where they were building the mighty Prince Edward Viaduct at the end of Bloor Street. Monty had punched his program already. He'd pace back and forth, tugging his hair, shaking his head like a maddened man. Then, abruptly, he'd turn and fling himself bodily off the platform, plunging 130 feet into the Don River, where he would simply disintegrate into a million cogs, gears, springs, and struts, which would sink to the riverbed and begin to rust away. The coppers would recover his clothes, and those, combined with the eyewitness testimony of the constable I was responsible for bringing to the bridge, would establish in everyone's mind exactly what had happened and how. Grinder was so distraught at one more death from among his charges that he had popped his own clogs in grief. We were all of us standing ready to testify as to how poor William was Grinder's little favorite, a boy he loved like a son, and so forth. Who would suspect a bunch of helpless cripples, anyway? That was the theory, at least. But now I was actually stood by the bridge, watching 6 half-children wrestle the automaton into place, striving for silence so as not to alert the guards who were charged with defending the structure that they were already calling the Suicide's Magnet, and I couldn't believe that it would possibly work. 5 of the children scampered away, climbing back down the scaffold, slipping and sliding and nearly dying more times than I could count, so that my heart was thundering in my chest so hard I thought I might die upon the spot. Then they were safely away, climbing back up the ravine's walls in the mud and snow, almost invisible in the dusky dawn light. Monty waved an arm at me, and I knew it was my cue, and that I should be off to rouse the constabulary, but I found myself rooted to the spot. In that moment, every doubt and fear and misery I'd ever harbored crowded back in on me. The misery of being abandoned by my family, the sorrow and loneliness I'd felt among the prentice lads, the humiliation of Grinder's savage beatings and harangues, the shame of my injury, and every time I'd groveled before a drunk or a pitying lady with my stump on display for pennies to fetch home to Grinder. What was I doing? There was no way I could possibly pull this off. I wasn't enough of a man, nor enough of a boy. But then I thought of all those moments since the coming of Monty Goldfarb. The millionfold triumphs of ingenuity and hard work, the computing power I'd stolen out from under the nose of the calculators who treated me as a mere work-ox before my injury. I thought of the cash we'd brought in, the children who'd smiled and sung and danced on the worn floors of St. Aggie's, and I ran to the policeman who was warming himself by doing a curious hopping dance in place, hands in his armpits. "Constable," I piped, all sham terror that no one would have known for a sham. "Constable, come quick! He's going to kill himself!" The sister who came to sit up with us mourning kiddies that night was called Sister Mary Immaculata, and she was kindly, if a bit dim. I remembered her from my stay in the hospital after my maiming. A slightly vacant, prune-faced woman in a wimple who'd bathed my wounds gently and given me solemn hugs when I woke screaming in the middle of the night. She was positive that the children of St. Aggie's were inconsolable over the suicide of our beloved patron, Zophyr Grindersworth, and she doled out those same solemn cuddles to anyone foolish enough to stray near her. That none of us shed a tear was lost upon her, though she did note with approval how smoothly the operation of St. Aggie's continued, without Grinder's oversight. The next afternoon, Sister Mary Immaculata circulated among us, offering reassurance that a new master would be found for St. Aggie's. None of us were much comforted by this. We knew the kind of man who was likely to fill such a plum vacancy. "If only there was some way that we could go on running this place on our own," I moaned under my breath, trying to concentrate on repairing the pressure gauge on a pneumatic evacuator that we'd taken in for mending. Monty shot me a look. He had taken the sister's coming very hard. "I don't think I have it in me to kill the next one, too. Anyway, they're bound to notice if we keep on assassinating our guardians." I snickered despite myself. Then my gloomy pall descended again. It had all been so good. How could we possibly return to the old way? But there was no way the sisters would let a bunch of crippled children govern themselves. "What a waste," I said. "What a waste of all this potential." "At least I'll be shut of it in 2 years," Monty said. "How long have you got till you're 18th? My brow furrowed. I looked out the grimy workshop window at the iron-gray February sky. "Is it February 10th today?" "The 11th, he said. I laughed, an ugly sound. "Why, Monty, my friend, today is my 18th birthday. I believe I have survived St. Aggie's to graduate to bigger and better things. I have attained my majority, old son. I stood, the scrape of my chair very loud and sudden. I realized I had no idea what I would do next. I had managed to completely forget that my graduation from St. Aggie's was looming, that I would be a free man. In my mind, I'd imagined myself dwelling at St. Aggie's forever. Forever. "You look like you just got hit in the head with a shovel," Monty said. "What on earth is going through that mind of yours?" I didn't answer. I was already on my way to find Sister Mary Immaculata. I found her in the kitchen, helping legless Dora make toast for the tea over the fire's grate. "Sister," I said, "a word, please." As she turned and followed me into the pantry off the kitchen, some of that fear that I'd felt on the bridge bubbled up in me. I tamped it back down again firmly, like a piston compressing some superheated gas. She was really just as I remembered her, and she had remembered me too. She remembered all of us, the children she'd held in the night and then consigned to this hell upon earth, all unknowing. "Sister Mary Immaculata, I attained my 18th birthday today." She opened her mouth to congratulate me, but I held up my stump. "I turned 18 today, sister. I am a man. I have attained my majority. I am at liberty and must seek my fortune in the world. I have a proposal for you, accordingly." I put everything I had into this, every dram of confidence and maturity that I'd learned since we inmates had taken over the asylum. I was Mr. Grindersworth's lieutenant and assistant in every matter relating to the daily operation of this place. Many's the day I did every bit of work that there was to do, whilst Mr. Grindersworth attended to family matters. I know every inch of this place, every soul in it, and I have had the benefit of the excellent training and education that there is to have here. I had always thought to seek my fortune in the world as a mechanic of some kind, if any shop would have a half-made thing like me. But seeing as you find yourself at loose ends in the superintendent department, I thought I might perhaps put my plans on hold for the time being, until such a time as a full search could be conducted. "Sean," she said, her face wrinkling into a gap-toothed smile, "are you proposing that you might run St. Agatha's?" It took everything I had not to wilt under the pity and amusement in that smile. "I am, sister, I am. I have all but run it for months now, and I have every confidence in my capacity to go on doing so for so long as need be." I kept my gaze and my voice even. "I believe that the noble mission of St. Aggie's is a truly attainable one, that it can rehabilitate such damaged things as we and prepare us for the wider world." She shook her head. "Sean," she said softly, "Sean, I wish it could be, but there's no hope that such an appointment would be approved by the Board of Governors." I nodded. "Yes, I thought so, but do the governors need to approve a temporary appointment? A stopgap until a suitable person can be found?" Her smile changed, got wider. "You certainly have come into your own shrewdness here, haven't you?" "I was taught well," I said, and smiled back. The temporary has a way of becoming permanent. That was my bolt of inspiration, my galvanic realization. Once the sisters had something that worked, that did not call attention to itself, that took in crippled children and released whole persons some years later, they didn't need to muck about with it. As the mechanics say, if it isn't broken, it doesn't want fixing. I'm no mechanic, not anymore. The daily running of St. Aggie's occupied a larger and larger slice of my time until I found that I knew more about tending to a child's fever or soothing away a nightmare than I did about hijacking the vast computers to do our bidding. But that's no matter, as we have any number of apprentice computermen and computerwomen turning up on our doorstep. So long as the machineries of industry grind on, the supply will be inexhaustible. Monty visits me from time to time, mostly to scout for talent. His shop, Goldsworth & Associates, has a roaring trade in computational novelties and service, and if anyone is bothered by the appearance of a factory filled with the halt, the lame, the blind, and the crippled, they are thankfully outnumbered by those who are delighted by the quality of the work and the good value in his schedule of pricing. But it was indeed a golden time, that time when I was but a boy at St. Aggie's among the boys and girls, a cog in a machine that Monty built of us, part of a great uplifting, a transformation from a hell to something like a heaven. That I am sentenced to serve in this heaven that I helped make is no great burden, I suppose. Still, I do yearn to screw a jeweler's loop into my eye, pick up a fine tool, and bend the sodium lamp to shine upon some cunning mechanism that wants fixing. For machines may be bulky, and they may destroy us with their terrible appetite for oil, blood, and flesh. but they behave according to fixed rules that can be understood by anyone with the cunning to look upon them and winkle out their secrets. Children are ever so much more complicated, though I believe I might be learning a little about them, too. All right, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. Bye. You've been listening to the Cory Doctorow podcast, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike US 3.0, or as Woody Guthrie put it in another context, this song is copyrighted in the US under seal of copyright 154085 for a period of 28 years, and anyone caught singing it without our permission will be a mighty good friend of ourn, because we don't give a darn. Publish it, write it, sing it, swing to it, yodel it, we wrote it, that's all we wanted to do. Many thanks to John Taylor Williams for mastering. That's Ryneck Studio, WRYNECK Studio @gmail.com. John Taylor Williams is a full-time self-employed audio engineer, producer, composer, and sound designer. In his free time, he makes beer, jewelry, odd musical instruments, and furniture. He likes to meditate, to read, and to cook. Talk to you next week.